When you hit rock bottom, the world feels like it's collapsing around you. Shame, loss, and desperation cling like shadows. But sometimes, from that darkness, a spark of grit ignites, proving you can rise again. This is one man's fight to reclaim his life. My name's Ethan Carter. I'm 36, and I'm a chef, or at least, I used to be. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, in a noisy, chaotic house with two younger sisters and parents who worked too hard to keep us afloat. Cooking was my escape. By 16, I was flipping burgers at a diner, dreaming of owning a restaurant someday. I had a knack for flavors, a steady hand with a knife, and a fire in my gut to make something of myself. By 28, I was head chef at a trendy bistro downtown, pulling 80-hour weeks but loving every second. I had a decent apartment, a girlfriend named Sarah who laughed at my dumb jokes, and friends who'd show up for late-night beers after my shifts. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Then gambling crept in. It started small, a poker night with the guys, a $20 bet on a football game. I'd always liked the thrill of a risk. In the kitchen, you're balancing a dozen plates, racing the clock, and one wrong move can tank the night. Gambling felt like that, but sharper, like a shot of adrenaline straight to the heart. I'd win a couple $100 and feel like a king. Losing? Just a bad night, I'd tell myself. I'd chase it back. At first, it was manageable. I'd drop $50 here, $100 there. But I was still showing up to work, still making Sarah smile with my stupid marinara puns. I didn't see the hook sinking in. My buddies, Jake, Marcus, and Tom, were into it too. We'd hit the casino after work, laughing over cheap drinks, egging each other on. "Ethan, you're due for a big win," Jake would say, slapping my back. I believed it. I always believed the next hand, the next bet, would fix everything. But the losses piled up. I'd tell myself I was in control, that I could stop anytime. I'd hide my bank statements from Sarah, lie about late shifts when I was really at the slots. I'd borrow cash from Marcus, promising to pay him back next week. My savings, $12,000, I'd scrape together for a future restaurant, started shrinking. $10,000, $7,000, for $1,000, I'd stare at my account, heart pounding, thinking, just one good night, and I'll get it back. But that night never came. Sarah noticed first. "You're different, Ethan," she'd say, her voice soft but sharp with worry. I'd brush it off, crack a joke. But her eyes didn't light up anymore. At work, I was slipping burning dishes, snapping at my sous chef, missing shifts because I was too hungover from late nights at the casino. My boss pulled me aside one day, his face tight. "Get it together, Carter, or you're out." I nodded, but I was already planning my next bet. I didn't know it then, but I was standing at the edge of a cliff. My life, my job, my relationship, my dreams was about to come crashing down, and the worst part? I couldn't see it. I thought I was still in control, still the guy who could charm his way through anything. But gambling doesn't care about charm. It doesn't care about your plans or your promises. It takes everything and leaves you with nothing but shame and a long, lonely road back. Looking back, I had it good before the gambling took over. I wasn't some rich guy, but I was building something real. Growing up in Portland, my family wasn't flush with cash. Mom was a nurse. Dad drove a delivery truck. We lived in a cramped split-level house, always loud with my sisters arguing over the TV or mom yelling about dishes. I found peace in the kitchen, messing around with spices, turning cheap ingredients into something that made dad grin after a 12-hour shift. By high school, I was working at a greasy spoon, saving every tip for culinary school. I didn't just want to cook. I wanted to create, to make people feel something with food. Culinary school was a grind, but I loved it. I graduated at 22 and bounced around a few restaurants, learning the ropes. By 28, I landed the head chef gig at the Rusty Spoon, a hip spot downtown with exposed brick and overpriced cocktails. It was my kingdom. I'd spend hours tweaking the menu, seared scallops with a citrus glaze, braised short ribs that melted in your mouth. My crew respected me, even when I was a hard ass about plating. I was pulling in $70,000 a year. Decent for a chef, and I had big plans, my own place, maybe a food truck first to test the waters. Sarah was the heart of it all. We met at a friend's barbecue when I was 30. She was a graphic designer, all sharp wit and warm smiles. with this laugh that made my chest feel lighter. We'd spend Sundays cooking together, her teasing me about my fancy chef knife skills. While we made pancakes, I wasn't perfect. Work stress made me snappy sometimes, but she'd call me out, and we'd talk it through. I thought we were solid, maybe even forever. My buddies, Jake, Marcus, and Tom, were my other anchor. We'd known each other since our diner days, slinging burgers and dreaming big. Jake was a bartender, always chasing the next big tip. Marcus worked construction, loud and loyal. Tom was the quiet one, a line cook with a knack for numbers. We'd hang out after shifts, cracking beers, talking about life. They were the ones who first invited me to poker night. Just a friendly game with $10 buy-ins. It felt harmless, like blowing off steam. I didn't know it then, but those nights were the first step toward losing everything. Money was tight but manageable. I had $12,000 in savings, my restaurant fund, and I was good about not dipping into it. Sarah and I split rent on a one-bedroom apartment. Nothing fancy, but ours. Life felt like it was on track. Sure, I'd bet on a game now and then. $1.20 on the Blazers, a few bucks on a horse race. But it was just fun, a little spice. I'd win some, lose some. No big deal. I was still Ethan, the guy who could whip up a perfect risotto and make Sarah laugh until she snorted. I had no idea how fast it could all unravel, how those small bets were planting seeds that'd grow into something I couldn't control. Back then, I thought I was untouchable, like life would always bend my way if I worked hard enough. The thing about gambling is it doesn't just sneak up on you, it seduces you. Those early wins, the ones that made me feel invincible, were fading, but I couldn't let go. I was chasing that high, and it was changing me in ways I didn't want to admit. The first red flags weren't loud, they were whispers I ignored. Sarah would ask why I was home so late, her brow furrowed, and I'd lie. Extra shift, I'd say, avoiding her eyes, but she wasn't stupid. She'd find receipts from the casino in my jacket. Crumpled and forgotten. Ethan, what's this? She'd ask, holding one up like evidence. I'd laugh it off, say it was just a one-off with the guys, but her silences got heavier, her smiles rare. At work, I was unraveling. The kitchen used to be my sanctuary, but now I was distracted, my mind on the next bet. I'd burn a sauce because I was checking odds on my phone. My sous chef, Carla, called me out once. You okay, boss? You're off. I snapped at her, told her to focus on her prep. She didn't deserve that, but I was too wired to care. My boss, Mike, started hovering, watching me like he knew something was wrong. I'd fake it, crack a joke, played a perfect dish, but I was slipping, and everyone could see it. My buddies weren't helping. Jake, Marcus, and Tom, they were in deep too, but they acted like it was all fun and games. Jake was the worst. He'd text me at 2 a.m., casino's hot tonight. Man, you in? I'd be exhausted, but that itch would flare up, and I'd go. Marcus lent me $500 once when I was tapped out, but it came with a smirk. You owe me, chef, he'd say, like it was a joke, but his eyes were cold. Tom was quieter, but he'd push too, saying stuff like, you're too good to lose. Ethan doubled down. It felt like camaraderie, but looking back, they were feeding my addiction, keeping me in the game. They weren't forcing me, but they weren't stopping me either. They'd watch me spiral and still pass me a drink, still point me to the slots. I started lying to everyone. Sarah asked about our savings once. She wanted to plan a trip, and I said it was fine, but my stomach twisted. I drained half of it, $6,000 gone in a month. I told myself I'd win it back before she noticed. I'd borrow from one credit card to pay another, juggling bills like plates in the kitchen. But the debts grew. $2,000, then $5,000. I'd sit in my car after a bad night, hands shaking, promising myself I'd quit. But then Jake would call, or I'd see an ad for a sure thing bet, and I'd be back at it. Sarah's patience was fraying. One night, she sat me down, her voice trembling. Ethan, I don't know you anymore. You're lying to me, and it hurts. I wanted to come clean, but shame choked me. Instead, I got defensive. I'm fine, Sarah, you're overreacting. She cried, and I hated myself, but I couldn't stop. I'd tell myself I was protecting her by hiding the truth, but really, I was protecting my addiction. I was manipulating her trust, convincing myself it was love. The casino was my real manipulator, though. Those flashing lights, the free drinks, The dealers who called me by name, it was all designed to keep me hooked. I'd walk in thinking I'd spend $100, then leave $1,000 lighter. Hating myself, but already planning the next trip. I was losing more than money now, my focus, my temper, my future. But I couldn't see the trap closing around me. I thought I was still the guy who could fix it all with one big win. The slide got steeper, faster than I could have imagined. Gambling wasn't just a habit now, it was my life. I'd wake up thinking about bets, not recipes. My savings were gone, all $12,000, blown on slots and poker tables. I'd maxed out 2 credit cards, owing $8,000, then took out a third. Bills piled up, rent, utilities, Sarah's car payment. I'd lie to her about why we were short, blaming slow months at the restaurant. She'd nod, but her eyes were distant. Like she was seeing through me. I hated that look, but I hated myself more. Work was a disaster. I showed up late, hungover from all-night casino runs. Once, I dropped an entire tray of plates because my hands were shaking. Mike, my boss, had enough. Ethan, you're done, he said one night, his voice cold. You're a liability. I begged, promised to shape up, but he wouldn't budge. I'd been head chef for 5 years, and now I was jobless, walking out with my knives in a bag. My pride in pieces. I didn't tell Sarah. I couldn't. Instead, I'd leave the apartment like I was going to work, then spend hours at the casino, chasing a win to fix it all. Sarah found out a week later when Mike called to check on me. She was waiting when I got home, her face pale. You got fired? And you didn't tell me. Her voice broke, and I had no excuse. I mumbled something about stress, but she wasn't having it. You're killing us, Ethan, she said. I can't do this anymore. She packed a bag and left for her sister's place. I didn't stop her. I wanted to, but the shame was too heavy. I sat on our couch, staring at the empty apartment, feeling like I'd lost the only person who mattered. My friends weren't there either. Jake stopped texting when I couldn't pay for drinks. Marcus started hounding me for the $500 I owed him. His text sharp. Where's my money, man? Tom just ghosted. I'd thought they were my brothers, but they bailed when I wasn't fun anymore. I was alone, drowning in debt. $15,000 now, with interest piling up. I sold my chef's knives, the ones I'd saved for years to buy. For $200, it felt like selling a piece of my soul, but I needed the cash to bet, to chase that one when I was sure would turn it all around. The emotional toll was brutal. I couldn't sleep without nightmares of losing everything. I'd wake up sweating, checking my phone for odds like it was oxygen. I stopped calling my parents. They'd ask how I was, and I couldn't lie to them anymore. My sisters texted, worried, but I ignored them. I felt like a failure, a fraud who'd pretended to have it together. Every loss at the casino was a knife in my chest, but I kept going back, convinced the next bet would save me. I'd sit at the slots, muttering to myself, just one more spin. Hours would vanish, and I'd leave with nothing but a hollow ache. Sarah texted once, I miss you, but I can't watch you destroy yourself. I didn't reply. I wanted to tell her I'd change, but I didn't believe it myself. I was lying to everyone, my family, my friends, myself. The casino was my only constant, its lights promising salvation but delivering pain. I was trapped. And the worst was yet to come. I didn't know how much deeper I could fall, but I was about to find out. Rock bottom isn't a moment. It's a place you live in, a cold, empty void where hope feels like a cruel joke. I hit it 6 months after Sarah left. I'd been evicted from our apartment. Couldn't pay rent after blowing $2,000 in one desperate night at the casino. I stuffed what I could into my beat-up Honda. Clothes, a blanket, a photo of Sarah I couldn't throw away. I was living in my car, parking in empty lots, washing up in gas station bathrooms. The chef who'd once plated $40 entrees was eating day-old fast food, scrounging change for gas. I was $20,000 in debt, with collectors calling nonstop. My phone buzzed with threats, late fees, lawsuits. I'd turn it off, but then I'd miss texts from my sisters, begging me to call mom and dad. I couldn't face them. I'd overheard mom crying on the phone once, saying she didn't know where her son went. That gutted me, but I was too ashamed to reach out. I'd burned every bridge. Sarah, my friends, my family, Jake and Marcus wouldn't even reply to my texts. Tom sent one message, get help, man. I didn't. The casino was still my drug. I'd scraped together $50 from selling old clothes or pawning my watch. then lose it in an hour. One night, I sat in my car outside the casino, hands shaking, no money left. I bet my last $10, thinking it'd turn into $100, then $1,000. It didn't. I punched the steering wheel until my knuckles bled, screaming at myself, "What are you doing, Ethan?" But I had no answer. I was a ghost of the guy who used to dream of a restaurant, who used to make Sarah laugh. Now I was just a guy with a car, a debt, and a sickness I couldn't shake. I got sick that winter, fever, coughing, no insurance. I couldn't afford a doctor, so I just rode it out, shivering under a blanket in my back seat. I drive to the casino parking lot at night, not to gamble, but because it felt familiar. Like the only place I belonged. I'd see guys like me there, hollow-eyed, chasing the same lie I'd chased. One night, a security guard knocked on my window. "You can't sleep here," he said. Not unkindly, I nodded, drove off, and cried for the first time in years. I wasn't just broke. I was broken. The lowest moment came when I saw Sarah's sister at a grocery store. I was buying a $1 coffee with quarters, looking like hell, unshaven, clothes wrinkled. She spotted me, her face tightening. "Ethan, you need help?" she said, her voice soft but firm. "Sarah still cares, but she can't save you." I mumbled something and walked away, shame burning my face. I sat in my car and stared at that photo of Sarah, her smile from better days. I wanted to be that guy again, but I didn't know how. I was 36, homeless, jobless, and alone. With nothing but regret and a gambling addiction that owned me, I thought about giving up, not just on gambling, but on everything that scared me more than the debt, more than the cold nights in my car. I didn't want to die, but I didn't know how to live anymore. Something snapped that night in my car, staring at Sarah's photo. I'd been running from myself for years, hiding behind bets and lies, but I couldn't run anymore. I was sick, broke, and living in a parking lot. But for the first time, I saw it clearly. Gambling wasn't my escape, it was my cage. I'd lost everything, my job, my home, Sarah, my family's trust. Because I kept chasing a win that didn't exist, I wasn't just hurting myself, I was hurting everyone who ever cared about me. That realization hit like a punch, but it also lit a spark. I didn't want to be this guy anymore. I drove to a diner, the kind I used to work in, and used my last $5 for a coffee. The waitress, an older woman with kind eyes, chatted with me like I wasn't a mess. "Rough night?" she asked. I nodded, and she slid me a free slice of pie. That small act of kindness broke something open. I didn't deserve it, but it made me want to. I Googled gambling addiction help on my phone, hands shaking. I found a local rehab program, a 30-day inpatient thing. It was free if you couldn't pay, but you had to commit. I sat there, staring at the number, terrified. What if I failed? But then I thought, what if I didn't? I called the next morning. The woman on the phone was calm. "No judgment. We've got a spot," she said. "Can you come today?" I almost backed out, but I thought of Sarah's sister, of mom crying, of the guy I used to be. I drove to the center, a plain building on the edge of town, walking and felt like stepping off a cliff. They took my phone, my keys, everything but my clothes. I was scared. But for the first time in years, I felt a flicker of hope. Rehab was raw, group sessions were me and a dozen others, truck drivers, accountants, kids barely 20, all spilling our guts. I hated it at first, talking about my losses, my shame, but hearing their stories, I realized I wasn't alone. One guy, Paul, a former mechanic, told me how he'd lost his house to slots. "You're here," he said. "That's the first win." I started opening up, admitting how I'd lied to Sarah, how I'd pawned my knives, how I'd let everyone down. Saying it out loud made it real, but it also made it something I could fight. The counselors taught me about triggers, stress, boredom, even the sound of slot machines. I learned I'd been using gambling to fill a hole, to feel in control when life felt messy. They gave me tools, journaling, breathing exercises, ways to redirect the urge. I started writing letters I'd never sent to Sarah, my parents, even myself. I wrote about the restaurant I dreamed of, the life I still wanted. It wasn't easy. Some days, I'd crave the casino so bad I'd shake. But I stayed. I didn't have anywhere else to go. But more than that, I wanted to prove I could change. By the end of the 30 days, I wasn't fixed, but I was different. I had a plan. Stay sober, find work, rebuild. I called my parents from the center's phone. Mom cried. But this time it was relief. We're here, Ethan, Dad said. I believed them. I wasn't out of the woods, but I was done running. I'd spent years letting gambling define me. Now, I wanted to define myself. Leaving rehab felt like stepping into a new world. When I didn't quite fit in yet, I was 30 days sober, but I was still broke, still homeless, still carrying the weight of my mistakes. My parents let me crash on their couch, a humbling move at 36. Mom hugged me so tight I could barely breathe, and Dad just nodded, like he trusted me to figure it out. I wanted to earn that trust, but I knew it'd be a long road. I started small. The rehab folks connected me with a temp agency, and I landed a dishwashing gig at a dive bar. It paid $12 an hour, a far cry from head chef, but it was honest work. I'd scrub pots, my hands raw, and feel a strange pride. I was showing up, sober, every day, no casino runs, no lies. I'd go to Gamblers Anonymous meetings twice a week, sitting in church basements with people who got it. I'd share my story, listen to theirs, and feel less alone. One guy, Ray, became a friend. He'd been clean for 5 years and ran a small catering business. Keep showing up, he'd say, it adds up. Money was tight. I'd send $100 a month to my creditors, barely denting the $20,000 I owed. But it was something. I sold my car to pay off one credit card, taking the bus instead. It sucked. But every payment felt like taking back a piece of myself. I started cooking again, just for Mom and Dad. Simple stuff like lasagna or chili. Mom would tear up, saying it reminded her of the old me. I was starting to feel like him again, too. 6 months in, Ray offered me a part-time gig helping with his catering jobs. It was grunt work, chopping veggies, hauling trays. But being in a kitchen again lit something in me. I'd experiment with spices, tweak recipes, and Ray noticed, you've got talent. Ethan, he said, don't waste it. He started giving me more responsibility, letting me plan menus. One night, we catered a small wedding, and the bride hugged me, raving about my garlic rosemary chicken that felt better than any casino win. I reached out to Sarah, not expecting much. I sent a letter, handwritten, apologizing for everything, lying, shutting her out, breaking us. I didn't ask her to come back, just said I was trying to be better. She didn't reply, and that stung. But I got it. I was doing this for me now, not to win anyone back. I started saving, $20 here, $50 there. For the first time in years, I'd dream about that food truck again, sketching ideas in a notebook, Carter's kitchen, serving gourmet sliders and tacos. The urges didn't vanish. Some nights, I'd pass a bar with a poker game in the back, and my heart would race. But I'd call Ray or go to a meeting instead. I was learning to fight, not just for survival, but for a life I could be proud of. I wasn't the chef with the fancy bistro anymore, but I was Ethan, sober, working, growing. I was taking back power, one dish, one day, $1 at a time. 2 years after rehab, I'm not where I was, but I'm somewhere better. I'm sober, still going to GA meetings, still fighting the urge some days, but I'm not that guy in the car anymore, shivering and broke. I've got a tiny apartment now, nothing fancy. But it's mine. I paid off $10,000 of my debt, chipping away with every catering gig and side hustle. It's slow, but it's progress. I'm back in the kitchen, not as a head chef, but as a partner with Ray. We started a food truck, Carter's Kitchen. Just like I dreamed, we serve pulled pork sliders, spicy fish tacos, and my signature citrus glazed wings. It's small, but people line up, and that feels like a win bigger than any jackpot. I reconnected with my family. My sisters come to the truck sometimes, teasing me about my apron but eating everything I make. Mom and Dad are proud, even if they don't say it outright. I see it in their eyes when they visit, no longer worried I'll disappear again. Sarah and I aren't back together, but we've talked. She came to the truck's opening, smiled, and said, "You did good, Ethan." It wasn't love, but it was closure, and I'll take it. She's happy now, engaged to someone else, and I'm happy for her. That's new for me, letting go without resentment. Ray's been my rock. He believed in me when I didn't, fronting half the money for the truck. We're not rich, but we're steady, building something real. Last month, a local paper wrote us up, called our food soulful. That hit me hard. Soulful's what I always wanted to be, in the kitchen and out. I'm not there yet, but I'm closer than I've ever been. The takeaway? You can lose everything, your job, your love, your dignity, but you don't have to stay lost. Gambling taught me how fast you can fall, but clawing back taught me grit. It's not about one big win, it's about showing up every damn day, even when it's hard. I still get urges, still have bad days, but I've got tools now, meetings, Ray, my family, my truck. I'm not defined by my mistakes anymore. I'm defined by what I do next. If you're out there, stuck in your own hole, listen, you're not done. You can climb out, one step at a time. It's not easy, and it's not quick, but it's possible. I'm proof of that. Flipping burgers and dreaming again, one plate at a time.